I taught for about 10 years, and I took a 4.5-year break in between as a district coordinator of English Language Arts and World Languages. So this is my first year back after that kind of a hiatus, and it's been a really terrific year so far. I've always taught language arts and other related courses at the high school level. This is my first year that I decided to teach middle school. One, because in my school visits throughout the years recently, I noticed the distinct difference of the overall kind of energy and vibe of a middle school versus a high school, and I was just really intrigued by the way everything felt at a middle school. And I've started to understand why. I mean, middle school children are definitely different developmentally than they are just a couple years later in high school. And it makes it a lot of fun. It makes it challenging, but mostly fun. Well, and we were talking about this the other day, you and I struggle with extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation. And, you know, it's my belief that if you can limit extrinsic motivation to the greatest degree possible, all the better. And, you know, that's easier said than done, though, and especially when we have so many systems and initiatives in play where students are asked to buy into whatever the school initiative is, or the department, or, you know, you can win this reward if you try this hard at this, and you can, you know, so that's one of the struggles that I have, is trying to instill in my students that learning is just good for you, and it makes you a really interesting person. Well, today we're going to continue to explore the Teengagement text, Humans for Sale. And that's because it's related to our core text in our language arts textbook. We're studying the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, which is really great because in their social studies they're just now studying the Civil War and the causes for it and everything that's related to that. So those are linking up really well. And I'm constantly looking for ways to answer that question that students have. Either they express it outright or they're thinking it, which is, why are we studying this? What does it have to do with me? What does it have to do with the real world? And, you know, those who love history can say, well, it's really important to study the life of Frederick Douglass because it shapes our identity and it informs us as to who we are as a culture. But to a 13 or 14-year-old, that doesn't always, you know, mean a lot. But if you can say, look, there are human slaves in our midst, and there are actually more slaves now than there were back then when Douglass was helping to abolish slavery, at least globally. And, you know, that is important all of a sudden to the students. You know, wow, there's something that not many people talk about, and so there's a surprise factor there, but there's also the deeper purpose, which is, you know, once we inherit a world that has 31 million slaves in it, what do we do about that? You know, what's our responsibility? And that's ultimately my challenge to students is, what are you going to do with the world that you inherit? First, you got to learn about how it works. And secondly, take a stand somewhere. Sure. It's called the Governor's Shine Award, and teachers are nominated for it for being inspiring teachers. And I hadn't applied for it. It was a complete surprise, but it really was a cool experience to travel to Tallahassee and meet the governor and meet, you know, 8 other language arts teachers who also were recognized for being inspirational to students and to their colleagues. It was really validating to put everything you have into teaching, and then to receive this token of appreciation. It's pretty great. Yeah, I try to keep it casual because if I formalize it, then most of my students would rather opt out or do not participate. So I give students usually, anywhere between 15 and 20 minutes to read their own book for pleasure. Most choose fiction, but if you are reading, their favorite sports star biography or something like that. But it's something they really look forward to. And then what I do is I try to model. So whatever book I'm reading, I say, here's a really interesting part of the book that I just read. And I try to keep it sort of short, sort of, just a little teaser in case they might want to read the book also. And then I invite others to do the same. And every class is its own animal, and some classes, it's too many kids want to tell you about their book, and it goes on and on and on, and it eats up class time. And then other classes, it's the exact opposite, where they're just kind of like, no, I don't really want to share what I'm reading. And that's okay too, because sometimes the books they're reading are really intense. They've got some serious subject matter that they don't really feel comfortable talking about, but they're glad they're reading it. So it's a very good thing to give them time to invest in literature. And I know that it's bandied back and forth, the pendulum swings. Should we give students time in class to just read? If you're on the camp that I am, with Donald and Miller, the book whisperer, absolutely. And because they might not get that chance anywhere else. So, glad we have it here. It's been quite a pleasure.